Everyone's been asking me, will the Miami market go down? Is what we're seeing sustainable? These are very valid questions. We've seen some crazy spikes in transaction volume. And the city of Miami, for instance, had a 9.5x increase in the number of million plus condos sold Q1 of this year versus Q1 of 2019, which is our most recent pre-COVID reality. So is this sustainable? We've also had the highest median rental price increase in the nation, all sorts of stuff like that. And now, of course, we're seeing potential dampening effects. We're seeing risk assets correct. We're seeing the Federal Reserve raise interest rates, in the hopes of sucking liquidity out of the collective ecosystem. So how will all this affect the Miami and South Florida market? Now, it is important to recognize, point number one, that our residential markets here entering this environment have already had the liquidity sucked out of them. What do I mean by that? I mean supply, active listings. Some submarkets have seen 90% drops in active listing counts now versus April 2019. For example, Coral Gables, single family home, active listings dropped 90%. That is a sucking of liquidity. Having said all this, though, nothing can go up forever at that crazy pace. So some type of leveling off and plateauing is inevitable. And I think that we will have one that is at a point that reflects the region's new status in the global marketplace. And now, of course, we do have these dampening effects in the broader markets and by virtue of the Federal Reserve and so forth. So as an example of where we are right now and what I think what will happen, a sort of allegory of what's going on, behind me I have some charts that are specific to the Miami Beach single family home market. All submarkets basically are following the same pattern. So this pattern will hold throughout. And I like the Miami Beach single family home market a lot because in many ways, I think of buying a home in especially a prime location, waterfront or close to waterfront on one of our islands, home in Miami Beach. I think of that as buying a house in Manhattan on Central Park 100 years ago before the city really blew up. These are prime location pieces of land that are right next to a global downtown, next to the ocean, very, very unique destinations. So let's see what's happened with Miami Beach single family homes. We have a chart here that shows annual transaction volume. This past full year, 2021, had 597 homes sold versus 223, 2019 pre-COVID. That's a 167% increase. That's almost tripling. Year over year, it went up 68%. And year to date, we have 127 sold. So we're on pace for another very good year. Now, meanwhile, we've had, check this out, a 63% drop in active listings April 2022 versus April 2019, and a year-over-year drop of 37%. And we've had a 78% drop in median days to sell. Year to date, it's been 30 days. 30 days is the median days to sell a home, a single-family home in Miami Beach. It was 134 days in 2019. And let me tell you, a big percentage of this market now is going like off market. People are trying to find stuff because there's no liquidity, there's no product. Median pricing, average pricing has also skyrocketed. Demand is enormous because it is reflecting this new reality that people are relocating. Life is reshaping for the 21st century. And one thing I've been saying is that pre-internet epicenters like New York City, where all of our work habits and life habits, office buildings, all these epicenters were developed before the internet. COVID came, it broke habits, and a certain percentage of people are realizing they don't have to live where they used to live and work, and they're moving. And we're one of the places that's winning. Even if 10% of people change their behavior at scale, that's enormous. We have tax advantages, we have weather, and not for nothing, a lot of people come here because they feel freer. Blue lockdown states had the biggest sort of exodus of population these past few years. And now on top of all this supply and demand stuff, my favorite chart actually is the percentage of all cash transactions. Year to date, through April of this year, 73% of Miami Beach single family homes were all cash. That's up from 51% in 2019. So this volume is not being fueled by debt. It's being fueled by cash. Even if they refi later, it's different. It's a different story. These are not liar loans. It is not fueled by cash. This is a very, very solid source of demand. These are real people buying real houses. So back to the original point, back to the question, is what is happening in South Florida and Miami sustainable? Well, it's not going to keep spiking at that same rate because nothing can. It can't go to infinity. But what I do think is sustainable is this creation of a new reality. We will eventually taper off and plateau. I don't see that yet because April was a record month across the board. Many submarkets had record transaction volume months while they kept seeing this continuation of drop in inventory and supply. So I don't think we've actually reached the plateau yet. Eventually we will. But I do not see a drop because, again, liquidity has already been sucked out of the system and our quality of life and our advantages are so clear and the contrast is so bright and word has just begun to get out. So that's my answer for this question. Send in your thoughts and questions for next week. We're going to take another one. Ask Anna, send it in. Thanks, everyone.